I always thought catching him cheating would break me. But what came after? That's what really destroyed me. It's strange how you can live so closely with someone and not truly know who they are. How you can wake up next to a person every morning, make breakfast together, share inside jokes, talk about the future, and still be completely in the dark about the life they're living behind your back. When I first caught my boyfriend cheating, I thought that would be the worst moment of my life. That sharp punch of betrayal, the sick feeling in my stomach, the way the room started spinning while I stared at those messages on his phone. I thought that would be the bottom. But I was wrong. That was just the surface. The real pain came later, when the lies kept unraveling, one after another, and I realized just how much of my world had been fake. I'm not telling this story because I want pity. I've made peace with most of it now. I'm okay. Or at least I'm getting there. But back then, I was drowning in denial, confusion, and heartbreak. And I wish someone had warned me that sometimes the cheating isn't the end of the betrayal. It's just the beginning. What happened after I caught him is what really changed everything. We met the way people always hope. We exchanged numbers that night, and the rest moved fast. Not in a reckless way, but in that rare kind of flow where everything feels easy. By the end of the semester, we were inseparable. He'd walk me to class even when he didn't have one nearby, stay up late to quiz me before exams, bring me snacks during my internship shifts. It wasn't just romantic, it felt safe, like I found a home in a person. I'd had a few boyfriends before, but none like him. With Matt, I felt seen, respected. He remembered the little things, how I took my coffee, the names of my childhood pets, that I cried every time I watched The Green Mile. I remember thinking, this is it. This is what it's supposed to feel like. After graduation, we moved in together. It was a tiny apartment with noisy neighbors and a sink that always leaked, but we loved it. We decorated it together, hosted little game nights, even got a cat. We talk about the future all the time. Where we buy a house, how many kids we wanted, what kind of old people we'd be. I had Pinterest boards dedicated to our imaginary wedding. He'd laugh, but then pull me close and say, "One day, babe. I promise." And yet, even then, there were little things that didn't quite sit right. Like how he never wanted to post photos of us on his social media. He said he wasn't into that stuff, and I believed him. Or how he always kept his phone on silent and face down, even when we were just watching TV. He said he hated distractions. Again, I let it slide. I remember once, about a year into living together, I found a receipt in his jacket pocket from a restaurant I'd never heard of. The date matched a night he told me he was working late. When I asked, he didn't even flinch, said it was a lunch meeting that ran long, that I must have misremembered. He smiled, kissed my forehead, and I dropped it. Just like that. There were other things too, vague work events that never had photos, last-minute cancellations, weirdly vague answers to simple questions. But every time I brought them up, he had a reason, and I wanted to believe him. I chose to believe him. Because the alternative, that he could lie to me so easily, was just too painful to face. I thought we were solid. I thought love meant trust, and trust meant not doubting the person you chose. I thought all couples had little bumps like this, and the strong ones just worked through them. Looking back now, I think I always knew. I just didn't want to know. It happened on a Sunday. We were supposed to go grocery shopping together, just like always. I was still in bed, scrolling through my phone while Matt showered. It was quiet, normal. The kind of slow morning where everything feels still and easy. I remember the way the sunlight hit the carpet, the way the cat curled up at my feet. Nothing felt off. Until his phone lit up. It was on the nightstand, screen facing up for once. I wasn't looking for anything. I swear I wasn't, but the notification caught my eye. A text from someone named Jenna. I didn't recognize the name, but what stopped me cold was the message. Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again. For a second, I froze. Like maybe I was reading it wrong. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it wasn't even his message somehow. I stared at the screen, waiting for it to change or go away. But it just stayed there, glowing like a quiet bomb. And then came the war in my head. Do I look? Do I seriously open his phone? What if I'm overreacting? What if there's a good explanation? But another part of me whispered something different. If there's nothing to hide, then why do I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff right now? My hands were shaking when I picked it up. He hadn't changed his passcode. I guess he didn't think he needed to. The second I opened the Messages app, I knew. It wasn't just one text. It was dozens. Conversations, flirtation, photos, screenshots of hotel confirmations. Her asking what cologne he wore because she could still smell it on her sheets. Some of it dated back weeks, some even months. My stomach dropped. My ears were ringing. I felt like I was underwater, like I couldn't breathe or think or even move. Just reading those messages felt like I was watching someone else's life completely fall apart in front of me. I scrolled and scrolled, as if maybe I could find something that made it all make sense. But it only got worse. By the time he walked out of the bathroom, towel around his waist, humming some stupid song like nothing had happened, I was sitting on the edge of the bed, phone in my hand, heart in my throat. He saw my face before he saw the phone. "Hey, what's wrong?" he asked, freezing mid-step. I didn't say anything at first. I just held the phone up. His eyes dropped to the screen, and I saw it, that brief flicker, not of guilt, but of annoyance, like I had ruined something inconvenient. "Whose idea was the hotel?" I asked. My voice came out too calm, flat. He tried to play dumb at first. "What are you talking about?" I showed him the message. "Last night was amazing. Jenna, ring any bells?" Silence. Then came the sigh, the one that said, "You caught me, and now I have to deal with this." "Look," he said, like we were talking about forgetting to take out the trash. "It wasn't serious. It didn't mean anything. You're overreacting." I think that hurt more than the cheating. The casual way he said it, like I should just nod and move on. Like I wasn't sitting there holding the broken pieces of a life I thought we were building together. I didn't cry in front of him. Not at first. I just stood up, walked past him, and locked myself in the bathroom. I slid down the door and sat on the cold tile floor, staring at the grout between my toes like it held answers. And then the tears came. Hot, quiet, uncontrollable. I remember grabbing a towel and burying my face in it so he wouldn't hear me sobbing. I stayed in there for hours. I don't even remember what he did. If he knocked, if he said anything. I was too far gone to notice. It felt like I had stepped into some alternate version of my life where nothing made sense anymore. This man, the one I made pancakes for, the one I thought I'd marry, had lied to me so easily, so casually, and now I didn't know what was real and what was just a performance. That night, I didn't sleep. I curled up on the couch while he stayed in the bedroom, probably annoyed that I was making it a big deal. My phone lit up constantly, messages from a few close friends after I told them what happened. Some were amazing. They rallied around me instantly. "You deserve better. I'll come get you if you need." Fuck him. Others, not so much. One friend told me, "Guys mess up sometimes. It doesn't mean he doesn't love you." Another said, "At least he was honest when you confronted him." End. Honest? It's wild how people twist the meaning of that word when it's convenient. And then came the worst part, the gaslighting. He started small, saying he didn't want to hurt me, that he wasn't himself lately, that work stress had gotten to him. Then it turned more pointed. He asked why I had gone through his phone, said that if I really trusted him, I wouldn't have needed to snoop. That if I hadn't been so distant lately, maybe he wouldn't have looked elsewhere for comfort. He made me feel like I broke something. And I believed him, at least for a little while. That's the part that still makes my stomach turn. I actually sat there wondering if I had been too clingy, if I was boring, if I had missed some crucial sign that he was unhappy. I started questioning every part of myself, my body, my personality, my choices. I kept replaying everything in my head, the nights he came home late, the times he seemed distracted, all the little moments I brushed off. I felt like I had been sleepwalking through a relationship I never actually knew. And worse, I wondered if maybe I was the reason it fell apart. That's what emotional manipulation does. It doesn't just break your heart, it breaks your sense of reality. About a week later, I started trying to put myself back together, or at least act like I was. I stayed in the apartment, mostly out of exhaustion. I didn't have the energy to figure out where else to go. And part of me was still clinging to the illusion that maybe, somehow, this could be fixed. That maybe he'd prove it really was just a one-time mistake. But deep down, I think I already knew the truth. I just didn't have proof. Until it found me. It was a Tuesday when my phone buzzed with a message from my cousin Liv. We weren't super close, but she lived in the same city and we'd hung out a few times as couples. Me with Matt, her with her boyfriend. The message was short, but felt like a punch to the gut. Hey, I didn't want to get involved before, but I saw Matt a few months ago at that wine bar downtown. He was with a girl, not you. I thought maybe it was work or something, but now I'm not so sure. I stared at that message for a long time. I wanted to believe she was mistaken. I even Googled the wine bar, tried to figure out what night it could have been. But when I confronted Matt about it, calmly, just asking, his reaction wasn't confusion or surprise. It was frustration. "You're really still digging?" he snapped. "I told you I made a mistake. What more do you want from me?" And that was my turning point. I dug. I remembered the drawer where he kept his old receipts and random junk. I opened it. I don't know what I expected. Maybe nothing. But what I found made my knees go weak. Hotel keycards. 2 of them, from a trip he said was a conference in Chicago. Printed boarding passes. 1 in his name, 1 in a woman's. Her name matched the one from his phone messages. Photos from a disposable camera, hidden under socks. One of them, God, I can still see it, was him at the beach, arm around a brunette I didn't recognize. His face pressed against hers, both smiling like they didn't have a single secret in the world. And then the floodgates opened. I went through his tablet, his old backup emails, his social media DMs. It was all there, dozens of conversations with different women, some flirty, some blatantly sexual. He had been cheating for at least a year, probably longer. The work trips, the last-minute family things, the deadlines, all lies, all planned lies. He didn't just cheat. He had a whole second life. When I confronted him again, I thought I was ready. I thought I'd finally reached that place where I could yell, cry, demand he leave. But I didn't expect what came next. He crumbled. He cried, actual sobs, collapsed to his knees, holding my hands like he was clinging to the edge of a cliff. He told me I was the only person who ever truly loved him, that he didn't know why he did it, that he needed help, therapy, that he was broken and didn't want to lose me. And God help me, part of me still felt something for him. I didn't want to. I hated him. But when someone you've built your life around falls apart in front of you, it's hard not to feel the pull. He promised everything would change. He said I was his future, that he'd prove it to me. And I wanted to believe it. I wanted to erase what I saw, forget what I knew. Because admitting it was all fake, everything, felt like I'd have to start over completely, alone. But I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel loved. I felt trapped. Not in chains or locked doors, but in my mind, in this twisted loop of self-doubt, hope, and fear. What if no one else ever loved me, like he did? Flawed, yes, but familiar. What if I left and regretted it? What if he really changed? And that's what abuse can look like. Not bruises, not shouting, but soft words, tearful apologies, promises whispered into the wounds they caused. It happened late one night, maybe 2 or 3 weeks after the last big confrontation. Things had gone quiet. Not better, just quieter. Matt was on his best behavior, bringing home takeout, complimenting me out of nowhere, making these over-the-top efforts to reconnect. And I played along, kind of. I smiled when I had to. I answered when he asked how my day was. But inside, I was slipping. I didn't trust him, not for a second. And that night, I saw it again. His phone lit up while he was across the room. He snatched it up so fast, it nearly fell from his hand. Said it was just work. But I felt it like a switch flicked in my chest. My throat closed up. My vision blurred. My hands started shaking so badly I had to sit down. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what was happening, but my body was screaming at me. Get out, get out, get out. I ran to the bathroom and locked the door. Again, I sat on the floor, knees pulled to my chest, gasping for air like I was drowning in my own silence. I couldn't even cry. I was past crying. I felt hollow, numb, like a ghost living in someone else's life. That's when I saw it. An old photo wedged in the mirror frame above the sink, me at 22, laughing with friends, a spark in my eyes I hadn't seen in years. I didn't even recognize that girl. She looked free, open, alive. And I broke. I slid the photo from the frame, held it in my shaking hands, and just whispered, "Where did you go?" I think something snapped in me right then. Or maybe it woke up, the part of me that still wanted to live, that still had a voice, buried under all the second-guessing and self-blame. That night, I pulled out my old journal and started writing, not about him, but to me, a letter. I poured everything out, the lies, the pain, the fear, the way I'd lost myself trying to keep someone else whole. I wrote like I was talking to that younger version of myself, the one who believed in love without conditions, the one who would have walked away the first time he lied. When I finished, I stared at the last sentence I'd written. "You are allowed to leave." And for the first time in months, I believed it. I didn't leave that night, but I made a plan. Quietly, carefully. I started saving screenshots. I sent important documents to my email. I packed a small bag and hid it in my trunk, and I told no one. Not yet. Because when I left, I wasn't going to give him a chance to stop me. The day I left was a Tuesday. He had work meetings all afternoon, and I knew his schedule like clockwork. I waited until his car pulled out of the driveway, and I gave myself exactly 2 hours. No more. No time to doubt, no time to second guess. I didn't pack everything, just the essentials, a suitcase of clothes, my documents, the cat carrier, my laptop, the few small keepsakes that still meant something to me, photos of my family, my grandmother's necklace. I left the rest, furniture, kitchen stuff, shared books, all of it. Things could be replaced. I couldn't. I didn't cry. Not even when I closed the front door behind me and dropped the keys into the mailbox slot. It was strange. I thought I'd feel sad or scared or even guilty, but I didn't. I felt light. My friend Morgan had already offered her guest room weeks ago. She hugged me when I arrived, didn't ask too many questions, just helped me carry the suitcase in and made me tea. That night, I slept for the first time in what felt like months. Really slept. No tossing, No racing thoughts, no jumping at the sound of a message notification. But of course, he noticed. Within hours of him realizing I was gone, the text started. "Where are you? We can fix this. I love you. Please come back. Don't throw away everything we built." Calls, emails, DMs from fake accounts when I started blocking the others. He even showed up at Morgan's once, pounding on the door until she told him if he didn't leave, she'd call the cops. I watched through the upstairs window as he stood there, looking small and furious and desperate all at once. And still, part of me almost caved. That's how deep it ran. So I did the only thing I hadn't done yet. I wrote him a goodbye. It wasn't a message I ever planned to send, but I needed to say the words for me. I told him I loved the version of him I met years ago, but that version never really existed. I told him I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. That I didn't hate him, but I also didn't owe him forgiveness. I owed myself freedom. I signed it, closed the draft, and never hit send. And just like that, I was finally gone. The weeks after I left were quiet, in a way that felt unfamiliar, almost eerie. No arguments, no walking on eggshells, no fake apologies, just stillness. And in that stillness, I realized how much noise I had been living with. Not just in my surroundings, but in my own head. I started therapy. I didn't think I needed it at first, thought I could handle it. But talking to someone who didn't try to minimize my pain was a game changer. My therapist helped me unpack things I hadn't even realized were wounds. It wasn't just about the cheating. It was about the way I'd abandoned myself to keep someone else happy. I started reaching out to old friends I'd lost touch with, some I hadn't seen in years. I apologized when I needed to. A few friendships were gone for good, but some came back stronger than ever. One friend even told me, "I'm just glad you're back. You disappeared for a while." She was right. I had disappeared. Months went by. I got a new job. I painted my apartment yellow, even though everyone told me it was too bright. I adopted a second cat. I learned to cook for one and enjoy it. Slowly, I started to feel like someone I recognized again. Then one day, I saw him. I was walking out of the grocery store when I spotted him across the parking lot. He was holding hands with someone new. She looked young, soft-spoken, the way I probably used to. And for a second, something twisted in my chest. Not jealousy, not anger. Pity. Because she didn't know, not yet. And maybe she never would. But I didn't go up to her. I didn't warn her. I just got in my car and drove home because I wasn't responsible for saving anyone else anymore. Just me. And that was enough. What I learned is that trauma doesn't always come from obvious places. Sometimes it comes from the person you kissed goodnight, the person who knew your secrets, your dreams, your fears, and used them anyway. But healing comes from choosing yourself over and over, every day, even when it's hard. It had been nearly 7 months since I left him when I got the message. It came through a burner Instagram account I almost didn't open. The name wasn't familiar, but the first line caught me off guard. "Hi, I think we have something in common. We were both with Matt." My stomach dropped. I sat frozen for a moment, half convinced it was a prank. But curiosity or maybe closure won out, and I replied. Her name was Elena. She lived in another city, about an hour away. She told me they'd been seeing each other on and off for over a year. She had no idea about me. Thought she was his only girlfriend. He told her he traveled for work a lot, which is why he couldn't always answer his phone. She believed him. Until she didn't. She found my name by accident. Apparently, he slipped once, mentioned something too specific, and she did some digging. Found photos of us, posts from months back. She put the pieces together, and when she did, she left too. And then, like me, she started to heal. We only talked for about a week, traded stories, screenshots, timelines. There was no jealousy, no bitterness. Just two women who realized they weren't crazy, weren't overreacting, weren't alone. We both believed his lies, loved the version of him he wanted us to see, and we'd both made the same mistake of staying after we knew. But something about hearing her side helped the last piece click into place for me. I hadn't lost him. I'd escaped him. All this time, I thought leaving meant admitting failure, that I'd failed at love, at loyalty, at fighting for someone I once believed in. But talking to her made me see it differently. I didn't fail. I survived. I chose myself. I got out of a web that was never meant to be untangled. And maybe the most painful truth was this. Catching him cheating wasn't the worst part. Staying after was. That was when I truly betrayed myself, but not anymore. Now I look in the mirror and see someone I fought hard to become. Someone who walked through the fire and came out burned, but still standing.